Alright, so I'm gonna predict some shit real quick. As soon as I'm done paying for my shit at Walmart, somebody's gonna be ready to go with me or walk out the door. Alright, so now I'm about ready to go. I was right here at the register, turning around to head towards the door. And what do you know? You see this? I could predict it. See that? This wasn't the first time I bumped into this dude in the store. Telling y'all, man. These people, these gang stalkers, are not human, man.
A woman by the name of Jenny was born in Baltimore in 1975 and enjoyed a happy and healthy childhood. Upon entering her late teens, she developed anorexia and depression, resulting in a month-long hospital stay. Despite this, Jenny was able to graduate high school and was accepted into a prestigious liberal arts college. Unfortunately, due to chronic fatigue, Jenny dropped out of her college and spent the next several years moving across the country. At age 30, Jenny would experience delusions, causing her to believe she was pregnant, which would result in a diagnosis of schizophrenia. After spending 6 months in hospital and being properly medicated, Jenny would go on to lead a productive life. Over the next 6 years, she would work for the National Association of Mental Illness and sit on the board for the National Organization for Women. She would also volunteer, tutor college students, and even write a book. From the outside, it would seem as though Jenny had a fulfilling and productive life. But on July 17th, 2017, this image would be shattered when Jenny jumped from the 10th floor of a parking garage at Tampa International Airport. Prior to Jenny's death, her brother Danny reported a decline in her mental health and the return of her delusions. The decline was so drastic she had even begun threatening Danny and his son, resulting in a restraining order being filed against her. The judge overseeing the case ordered Jenny to undergo a psychological evaluation, but within 2 months of this order, Jenny passed away. Though aware of his sister's mental health, her brother Danny was still desperate to find out the reason why his sister ended her life. After searching through her hotel room and apartment, the family would be unable to uncover any answers, so Danny, who was an ethical hacker, decided to look through her computer. Danny would find a series of aliases to hundreds of gang-stalking groups across Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. He would recognize these terms as something Jenny had spoken about during her decline in mental health, but had dismissed as nonsense. Jenny's illness had manifested elaborate fictions where she believed she was falling victim to a conspiracy that specifically targeted her. After attempting to join the Church of Scientology, it appeared Jenny believed they were monitoring her and using unknown technology to torture her inside her apartment. Her delusions were so far gone, she believed her family to be part of the gang stalkers and were going to force her to become a breeder. Now you might think this is an isolated case of someone who is mentally ill, but there are many people who believe that they are targeted individuals and are organized around the conviction that its members are victims of a sprawling conspiracy to harass thousands of everyday Americans with mind control weapons and armies of so-called gang stalkers. A recent study published on April 6, 2020, interviewed 50 people who believed they were being gang-stalked and found none of them described their experience as having ended, meaning they all believed they were still actively being gang-stalked. When asked why they were being gang-stalked, the responses varied widely. Why? To drive people to meetup groups or psychiatrists so they can be medicated and or get more federal grants for more mental health instead of training a real police force. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a big seller in the area. I began driving a friend around to make his pot sales, and I started noticing we would get tailed from time to time. I knew this friend had connects in weird places. He knows members of Anonymous, he knows people who work at the Pentagon. I also did a lot of research and was very vocal about being anti-government and anti-corporation. This is what got me targeted. If you are vocal about your positions, then you will eventually run across a civilian spy who will pass the information to their superiors, who will continue to pass the information up the chain of command. Once you're on their list, your life can become a living hell. It is a brainwashing military experiment. Post 9/11, they isolate certain people to stop them acting against the government. Of the 50, 94% reported they were being physically followed. Some written responses given point to their stalkers wearing elaborate disguises to change their race. People tailgate them and take note of what they are purchasing from the supermarket. Others go way off the mark, with one stating, "The perps who follow me around are trying to make me believe I'm being hunted or eaten by hybrid chimps and gorillas." The results go further and show 80% believe they are victims of a conspiracy. 66 had experienced physical interference, intimidation, or harassment. 40% believe they are being remotely controlled. 34% thought someone had entered their home without their permission. 32% thought police were part of the conspiracy against them. And 24% believe their friends and family were part of the conspiracy. What's sadder are the results regarding their feelings towards the experience, with 42% reporting psychological damage and 34% feeling isolated and alone. Though only 16% of people surveyed confirmed the development of hatred and violent tendencies, their responses are chilling. I may have to kill them before they kill me. Sometimes I even imagine my stalkers being strongly tied, their mouths filled with socks, and me beating the crap out of them by the heavy iron stick. I fantasize about killing them in many possible ways, and I'm a Christian. Even though I know it is a sin to hate and kill, I can't help these feelings. They simply come sometimes, very spontaneously, and I was never like that before. Gang stalking made me very aggressive. I think the only way forward is to get some weapons and act. Now, unlike Jenny's story, there are others where a person with such thoughts can turn to extreme violence. 31-year-old attorney Myron May, who shot 3 people at Florida State University on the 20th of November 2014, posted a video over 40 minutes long, expressing his belief he was a targeted individual.
It's with a heavy heart that I am in front of you now to make this video. Kind of my last words. It's really unfortunate that I have to make this video. You see, I am a victim of covert harassment and electronic harassment and gang stalking. I'm what's called a targeted individual.
Even looking at the comments, you can see the number of people who truly believe this to be the case, and others who openly state it's happening to them. During his time in West Africa, in April of 2015, former Marine Gavin Long, responsible for the Baton Rouge shootings, was reportedly a member of a group dedicated to helping targeted individuals suffering from remote brain experimentation or remote neural monitoring. His mother would even confirm he once believed the CIA was following him, and he would go on to post that he believed he had been watched day and night for the past 11 years. On September 16th, 2013, 34-year-old civilian contractor Aaron Alexis shot 3 people and injured 3 others in a shooting at the Washington Navy Yard. Previous to this, on August the 4th, naval police were called to his hotel at Naval Station Newport and found that he had taken apart his bed while under the belief someone was hiding under it. Naval police also found that Aaron had taped a microphone to the ceiling to record the voices of people that were following him. According to an FBI official, Aaron was under the belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low-frequency electromagnetic waves, and authorities would later find a note on his computer stating, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, this is what has driven me to this." Across most online platforms, a simple search of gang stalking or targeted individuals will result in groups of these people under the same beliefs. Here's a post from the gang stalking subreddit where the author claims to have found a job opening for the gang stalkers, or perps as they call them. I found other users claiming they were being harassed over minor things such as noise. In the thread, per my previous posts, the people involved in my daily organized community harassment are mostly Latino and Muslim, with Muslims being at the top of the list. The user claims her neighbors engage in targeted activities to facilitate noise harassment and sleep deprivation through synchronized activities. The activities she states are things most people have dealt with one time or another when living in an apartment. Dragging of heavy furniture across the floor, children running back and forth across the floor and making noise, banging on walls, dropping objects on the floor, slamming apartment doors or slamming doors inside the apartments. In another post titled, "I am a victim of coordinated stalking and organized harassment, ask me anything," the OP tells us they are a 31-year-old university-educated person who has never been into conspiracy theories until they underwent covert organized harassment for 8 months. They say if it weren't happening to them, they wouldn't believe it and argue against conspiracy theorists. In a comment, he mentioned specific scenarios where the alleged gang-stalking took place. Some of the things they conditioned me to notice were my country's flag. Again, very common. I read about a Norwegian guy who complained of the exact same thing. And also by mirroring things I do on a day-to-day basis. I like to shoot video, and I walk around a lot with a tripod. I had numerous gang-stalking incidents that were done by different people, all using the same tripod, and all wearing shirts with the flag on it. So a few weeks ago I decided to walk down a path that I frequent often, and it would be pretty predictable that I would go down that way. Sure enough, there's a guy, maybe 30 years old, wearing the biggest COVID mask I've ever seen hiding his face, sunglasses when it's not even sunny, and a hat, and of course a shirt with a flag on it. And he had the same tripod they always use. They had bothered me before in a very similar way, and the conditioning kicked in, and I saw the threat. The guy was waiting for me, and the exact moment when I start to pass by him, he starts following me step by step. I speed up, he speeds up. I slow down, he slows down. His tripod is left behind, and he's simply following me for a while. Now lots of people flip out at gang stalkers and such, but I never do that. I try and ignore them, because I know they're simply there to get a reaction out of you. This guy is following me around only like 2 or 3 feet beside me, and it's tense and unpleasant. I'm just listening to music, and I notice there's a bit of a crowd up ahead, so I manage to lose him for a bit in the crowd. He makes it out the other end, quickly follows me for a bit, and then finally just stares at me as I continue to walk on in the distance. Meanwhile, his tripod is like 100 meters behind him, and he was very obviously just fixated on me the whole time. He was very tense and not very good at acting casual. I would have taken out my phone and filmed this and even questioned him on camera, but my phone was dead at this time. Another comment of interest in the same thread is from a woman who describes herself as a professional with 2 degrees who claims she started experiencing gang stalking while a member of an activist group. Listing a few experiences, she tells us, "It started out as constant surveillance abuse and privacy violation. At the beginning, I had a man following me around in an SUV, honking at me, and waiting in this vehicle outside my home. Shortly after this, another man began coming up to me in person and repeating parts of my private phone conversations back to me. This initially happened about 5 or 6 times with the same man. He also stalked me at my local supermarket and sent obscene text messages commenting on the groceries I purchased. After a while, this spread to another man as well, who called me and tried to read pornography to me on the phone, then spread rumors at my place of worship. After this, yet another man took photos of me in public once, and was then in the waiting room at a doctor appointment. He sat across from me and took photos of me on his phone again. By now, this has spread to at least 7 people, 2 of whom were old friends until they began to harass me with excerpts of my private phone conversations with my family. I've been spied on and harassed via phone calls, texts, emails, and in-person comments relating to private phone calls, private emails, and my internet browsing activity. While this has been going on, my home was broken into repeatedly. The motion sensor light outside my house was smashed, and after I fixed it, it was smashed again. I've had clothing repeatedly stolen, purses stolen, and then returned and left in a very obvious place, and my clothing ripped with what looked like a razor. One time I just had a phone call with my landlady, during which I asked if I could drill a hole in the wall for a picture hanger to hang one of my degrees. She replied drilling holes in walls to hang pictures was prohibited in the lease. Then while I was at work the next day, my house was broken into and someone drilled 13 holes all over the interior walls with an electric drill. These online communities are said to number over 10,000 people throughout the web, all with differing levels of belief as to why they are supposedly being gang-stalked and the methods being used on them. Whether real or delusional, it would be exhausting to believe you are a targeted individual.